Jolani Tulo Webe.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
In our sports headline, Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder Neo Maema says he's fully focused on the African Nations Championship preparations. And Chinese schoolgirl Yu Zidi became the youngest swimmer in history to win a medal at the World Aquatics Championship. I'll be back with these and other stories at the bottom of the hour.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
All right, today on hashtag Africa Update, we ask, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa sworn into office the acting Minister of Police, Professor Firoz Kachalia, at the Union Buildings. We're asking you, what do you think the priorities of the incoming acting minister should be in the portfolio of police? Share your thoughts on channels, on our channels, Channel Africa's social media platforms. Of course, on Instagram, we are at Channel Africa 1, and on X at Channel Africa 1. And of course, on Facebook, Channel Africa. You can also send us your questions and comments and voice notes on our WhatsApp number. It's +27 63406 9126. That number is +27 63406 9126.
Você é fluente em português? É apaixonado por rádio e quer trabalhar na África do Sul? Você tem documentos que o qualificam para trabalhar na África do Sul? Nesse caso, podemos ter uma oportunidade para você trabalhar no Canal África. Envie seu currículo e demonstração para Canal África at newsroom@channelafrica.co.za. Lembre-se, se você não receber alguma resposta nossa em 14 dias, isso significa que você não foi selecionado. Canal África, a perspectiva africana.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
All right, today Professor Firoz Kachalia has been sworn in as acting police minister at the Union Buildings in Pretoria, South Africa. This follows President Cyril Ramaphosa's decision to place current police minister Senzo Mchunu on special leave amid serious allegations. Now, the move comes shortly after the Constitutional Court dismissed a legal challenge brought by former President Jacob Zuma and the MK party to block Ramaphosa's appointment of Kachalia as acting minister. For more on this, we're now joined by our reporter, Michael Mbewe, who is at the Union Buildings. Michael, good afternoon, colleague, and thank you so much for making the time.
A lovely and warm good afternoon, my colleague, and greetings to all our listeners across the continent of Africa and also beyond.
Yeah, you sound excited, Michael, I must say, but tell us about the latest there and the seat of government. How was the mood today in the sworn-in of Kachalia?
Well, as you have alluded, my colleague, the ceremony just, concluded about an hour ago. But the atmosphere here at the Union Buildings was quite charged as we witnessed, the formal swearing of a new, sheriff in town. Professor Firoz Kachalia as the new acting police minister in the South African Police Service. So just to recap, Kachalia has previously served as a Gauteng Community Safety MAC when he was a member of Gauteng Legislature representing the African National Congress Party, becoming today the first minister in Ramaphosa's administration appointed from outside Parliament. So the ceremony was attended by the president himself, President Cyril Ramaphosa, but also the sworn-in, being officiated by the just retired judge, Justice Madanga. So everybody was very excited. Speaking to some of the family members, they also welcome, his appointment and looking forward to what he's going to bring, in terms of as far as safety and security in South Africa is concerned, colleague.
Yeah, indeed, Michael. And there's been rejection of this appointment by political parties. For an example, MK Party at the Constitutional Court. Tell us how significant this move is.
Well, there has been mixed reactions. Some opposition parties, like you have, asserted there, including the MK Party and even factions within the ANC, have voiced concerns about this appointment, seeing it as a politically motivated or premature given the ongoing investigations. However, President Ramaphosa's administration insists this was a necessary step to maintain leadership and oversight of the police. The Constitutional Court recently the recent dismissal of the legal challenge against the appointment adds legal weight to the move. Politically, this appointment is significant because it reflects Ramaphosa's determination to assert control over key security portfolios and send a strong message about accountability within government structures.
Yeah, you and I can agree, colleague, that Kachalia, a lot is expected from him. And today we're asking questions around what are some of the things that he must look at when he gets into office. But talk to us about the challenges that Kachalia will face as he steps into this post.
Enormous. Professor Kachalia steps into a highly challenging environment. The South African Police Service is currently grappling with low public trust, internal disciplinary issues, and allegations of corruption and inefficiency. There is also the urgent need to address high crime rates, which continues to be a major concern for citizens nationwide. Beyond operational challenges, he will need to navigate the complex political landscape, manage expectations from the public, and work closely with law enforcement leadership to implement reforms. His success will largely depend on his ability to restore credibility and rebuild the morale of the police service during this turbulent time. Let us also not forget that I posed this question to his general, General Innocent Semosa, to say South Africa is about mostly certain that he is going to host, the leadership summit of the G20. How ready are we? So no, he said that no, he will work, he will speak to the new minister. I think they have an appointment to meet so that they can deliberate on the issues that are on the table on Thursday, so that now they can have their own plan of how they're going to be working forward as far as, their mandate is concerned, colleague.
All right, colleague, as we conclude this conversation, I would like you to confirm to our listeners, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, does a former police minister, Senzo Mchunu, still keeps the pegs and he's still getting the salary?
Yes, indeed, until, the completion of that inquiry that everyone, is looking forward to. That's something that has also been, questioned, but the president says no, he's doing this within, his powers, and we should be very patient and wait until, because you can't just fire somebody without having, conclusive findings. So it will remain the way it is. Hence, he asked, the people who have been tasked to deliberate on this particular inquiry, that in six months' time, he needs, the conclusion. It has to be closed so that we have a finding on now what is the way forward for Mchunu. Hence, the no is, other people are saying no, he's supposed to be fired, but the president is saying no, we can't do that. We have to establish findings and then the basis on how these all things happened. So we are looking, everybody's looking forward to what testimony Mkhwanazi is going to give on the inquiry.
Yeah. Colleague, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for always keeping an eye for us. It's always good to talk to you. Have a lovely afternoon.
Much appreciated. Have a wonderful, wonderful show, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right, there you have it. That was reporter Michael Mbewe, who was speaking to us live from the unit buildings, talking about President Ramaphosa, who was swearing in Professor Firoz Kachalia, who is the new police minister. That conversation brings us exactly to 12:16 Central African time.
Nkhanza zokhudza amuna ndi azimayi kapena kuti gender-based violence, GBV, zikuwononga mioyo komanso kuphwasula midzi. Zikuchitika m'manyumba, m'masukulu, malo ogwirira ntchito, ndipo kwambiri mwakachetechete. Koma sizikuyenera kupitirira. Mukazimva yankhulani. Ngati mwakhuzidwa, funani chithandizo. chifukwa kusachita chilichonse sikuthandiza. Mverani kuma wireless onse 14 a SABC kuchokera lachitatu pa 23 mwezi uno wa Julai kuti mumve zokambirana, malangizo, masewero, zionesero za maphunziro ndi mafunso okhuza nkhanza za amuna ndi azimayi ndi akatswiri, anthu opulumuka ku nkhanzazi, kukhazikitsa lamulo komanso dziko lonse lokhuzidwa ndi nkhanzazi. Zonsezi pa wireless yomwe mumayikonda ya SABC. Imbirani pa nambala 0800 428 428 kuti munene za nkhanzazi kapena kupeza chithandizo. Nkhanza zokhuza amuna ndi azimayi zimatha ndi inu. Uthenga ukufikani kuchokera ku SABC.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
All right, on to this now. Drastic cuts to humanitarian aid in northern eastern Nigeria could fuel the rise of one of the world's deadliest militant groups, Boko Haram. Aid agencies warn that recent reductions in funding have forced the United Nations World Food Programme to ration its support, and now it has completely ran out. To unpack this further, we're now joined on the line by Dr. Jimam La, a lecturer in the Department of History and International Studies at the University of Jos, Nigeria. Dr. Jimam, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Africa Update.
Thank you so much for having me. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you so much for making the time. How significant is the impact of humanitarian aid cuts on the overall security situation in the northern eastern Nigeria?
So to understand this, I think our listeners should just get a quick background. This has to be situated within a post-violence peace-building stabilization process. So, of course, after almost 2 decades of Boko Haram's insurgency, several efforts in terms of the kinetic, forceful approach of government and support from neighbors, but also partners, Boko Haram has been largely degraded. But when you degrade Boko Haram, there is the humanitarian catastrophe that has been left in its wake. So the government has had support from international partners, WFP being one of them, in terms of food supply, supporting these large populations who for several years have not been able to engage in farming, in fishing, in the pursuance of their livelihood. So WFP support has been critical in that nature. When you hear it, you think it's absurd. But what WFP has done and why this is relevant is the Nigerian government has made its own effort in trying to resettle these people, in trying to do short-term, medium-term, and then long-term resettlement and rehabilitation processes. But the support of international partners is very critical in maintaining and sustaining the balance of these efforts. So if you remove the international partnership support, particularly WFP in terms of food rationing and food support, it kinds of in a sense removes a critical component of that balance, and in a way it undermines the resilience of these communities in being able to not just sustain themselves, but also the vulnerability that this will create can open the door to Boko Haram remnants who even though degraded are still, around in pockets across the bushes in the northeast of Nigeria.
Yeah, Dr. Jima, maybe my next question is in twofold. Are we finding ourselves here because it's the food insecurity in the region is exacerbated by the lean season? And also, can you explain how aid reductions might empower groups like Boko Haram?
Well, you see, in the last 3, 4, 5 years, even though the conflict the violence has reduced to a large extent, and like I said, people have been resettled, but it takes time for them to build back their former livelihood patterns. So this support is really needed, like I earlier said, in sustaining the balance of these communities before they can adequately pick up. But so the Nigerian government is doing its part. The Borno state government, in terms of the regional government, is doing its part. But international aid and support has been very critical. Now, in my understanding, the withdrawal of U.S. Aid, because the U.S. is one of the major supporters of the WFP in Northeast Nigeria. So, in a sense, this cry out, this warning that is coming is, in a sense, to tell other partners, to tell the government something has to be done. If not, this lack of support will undermine the resilience, the stability of these communities, and it will make these communities vulnerable. And once they are vulnerable, you cannot predict what kind of access this will create for the remnants of the Boko Haram elements within the region, particularly those who still have access to some criminal trading routes that can enable them provide supplies, because part of this problem is the cross-border trading routes that whatever is lacking in Nigeria, they have these criminal routes that they can go across to Cameroon, to Niger, to Chad, and be able to supply for their camps. So that is actually the critical factor there.
Yeah, Prof, as a parting shot, and I'm glad that you're saying international community must come into the party to prevent the worsening of this crisis. And in conclusion, what would you say the possible solution to this current situation is, apart from you speaking about bringing in the international community in the region itself? What do you think the likes of ECOWAS can do?
I think, as I said, when WFP raises such an alarm, it's actually in a sense trying to garner support, trying to let the local authorities, the Nigerian authorities, know that all the effort, all the work that has been done, if we cannot sustain this process, we will undermine all the effort that we've put in place so far. So this, I think, will make the Nigerian government, which has a humanitarian ministry saddled with the responsibility, with the mandate to respond to such crisis. So the government itself will have to prioritize this within the context of other humanitarian challenges. You have to prioritize this, but also they will have to reach out to other partners to try to not just look for support for WFP, but also to find means of complementing WFP's efforts in the region. So I think it's about local mobilization within the government, but also about trying to get foreign support for WFP, who have a very good network, by the way, in the region in terms of their operations.
All right, Prof, because of time, we're going to have to let it go. Thank you so much for making the time, and have a lovely afternoon ahead.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
There you have it. That was Dr. Jimam La, a lecturer in the Department of History and International Studies at the University of Jos, Nigeria, joining us on the line to speak to us about the developments in that particular region. This is #Africa Update on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628. Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update, only on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Now, as the 2025 Nedbank Top Empowerment Conference draws to a close, the focus now turns to what happens beyond the event, how businesses, government and communities can turn dialogue into action. To wrap up the event, Channel Africa's Lebohang Mabange spoke to Priya Naidu, Group Executive of Strategy at Nedbank, who delivered the closing keynote address earlier today. Take a listen.
I think it's just acknowledging still where we are in terms of the journey on transformation, and that while it's a huge collaborative effort by all participants in the current environment, there's still a lot to do. So we don't have all of the solutions, but I think together and conversations like this can hopefully start helping us understand a little bit better and start creating and innovating a little bit more in terms of the job that's ahead.
Yeah, and also reflecting on both days, right, from yesterday of the conference, what stood out most for you in terms of the insights that came out or a shift in thinking? What really stood out for you?
I think just from some of the panels that I was listening in on, I think, we all want to make big, bold moves, absolutely, and I think that's necessary. But sometimes it's the little changes that just happen that actually start cultivating and have the multiplier effect. So it's not, I think for me, it's do the little things that you can, because that in itself starts making impact. There was a specific individual who was talking about a sponsorship that he got, and he wasn't quite sure why he got it. And there were some real insights around, well, maybe it was right for you at the right time, and he's just gone on to be blossoming in doing his master's at this point in time. And I think the effect that one individual will have on numerous other opportunities, I think, is the catalytic type of effect that we're looking for.
And how does Nedbank's long-term strategy now align with the themes that emerged from this year's conference?
So definitely, as we think about our own strategy, it's definitely one that's not just grounded for the immediate term or the medium term, but we definitely look at what are the things that we should be doing, investing in, and looking to change now that can have a sustainable longer term impact on ourselves, on the country, and on our people as well. So a lot of the focus that we're doing is saying, even though it's difficult and even though there's a lot of trade-offs in the current environment about where investment needs to go and at what pace, I think we continue just to focus on what is the path ahead and what is that future that we're still all wanting to create for South Africa, for a nation, for our economy. So our current strategy is deeply focused in terms of, while the shorter term may be difficult, what are the things that are necessary for us to be doing in creating this sustainable shared prosperity for the future.
Yeah, and in your view, what are the most urgent strategy or strategic priorities for business leaders committed to empowerment and inclusion?
I think you've said it exactly that, right? We have so many challenges in the current environment, and significantly in terms of poverty and unemployment. And I think as corporate SA working together with government, some of the key things we're going to need to shift are some of these structural impediments that has to start creating a shift in terms of employment. But that can only be done by creating growth and an economic environment for us to flourish in. So a lot of our focus has to be on working collaboratively and trying to unlock where, the country, I believe, has a lot of opportunity in terms of economic upside. And I think that's something that we need to unlock in the nearer term that can start hopefully creating a lot more employment and ultimately leveraging or addressing all of these issues around poverty and inequality. So it starts with inclusion and starts by thinking about how to actually get this economy growing faster.
Yeah, and after 2 days of engagement here at the conference, what practical steps should stakeholders take next to turn these conversations into measurable outcomes?
So, many people say, why scorecards and the like, but I think it's important because what gets measured gets done, right? So I think, it's taking out some of the learnings and the lessons from today, but putting in place actionable items and actionable initiatives that can actually then be measured and tracked, because that's the only way we're going to start making some progress. So for me, it's saying, what can we do, be it big business, be it small business, in using whatever mechanisms we have in place to start making these fundamental shifts and start ensuring that there's accountability and transparency in terms of how we're delivering on these.
And just in closing, are we seeing Nedbank sponsoring this event again next year?
I think what we've said is, this conference is so close to what we believe in and it's so close to our purpose. I think we, longer term, even if it's not as a sponsor, but in terms of the commitments to longer term transformation and empowerment.
Africa Update on Channel Africa. SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon, I'm Jolani Tulongwebe making headlines. Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have held the first meeting of a joint oversight committee taking a step towards implementing a peace deal. South Africa's newly appointed police minister, Professor Firoz Kachalia, says he will take the recommendations of the National Anti-Corruption Council seriously during his time in office. And finally, cholera outbreaks are surging across West and Central Africa, with children once again bearing the brunt. I will have details on these and other stories at 1 o'clock.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
In our sports this hour, we begin with football news. Mamelodi Sundowns midfielder Neo Maema is not entertaining discussions around his future yet, preferring to focus on the African Nations Championship CHAN preparations with Bafana Bafana for now. Coming to this camp, it was widely reported that Maema is headed to Tanzania Giant Simba Sports Club on a season-long loan deal, with suggestions that the move possibly happening at the end of the CHAN tournament.
For me, to play football beyond CHAN, I'm just focusing on CHAN now. Yeah, I would not like to comment on that. Thank you. I would not like to comment on that. I'm focusing on CHAN, making sure that we take it one day at a time.
Meanwhile, coach Sveisis de Bruyne says that in a rugby championship about the Springbok women, there are changes made for tomorrow's clash.
We're very excited for starters, because going through our videos and stuff, it's things that we can fix. So we made one or two changes in the team. That's partly due to injury. And secondly, because there's one or two more things I just want to see how it's going to work with the combinations. And but we're virtually there. I think after Saturday, we will have a brilliant idea where we are and what we want for the first game against Brazil.
On to athletics. South African athletics legend Ilana Meyer has heaped praises on Glenn Ruscaba for rewriting a record books after breaking two of her long-standing national records. Meyer described the 29-year-old as a special athlete destined for even greater heights in distance running. Xaba broke Meyer's 23-year-old national 10-kilometer record last year, clocking 31.12 seconds to shave a second off the previous mark of 31.13 seconds. Just last week, she followed it up by setting a new South African half-marathon record of 1 minute 30.03 seconds at the ASA Road Running Championship, in surpassing Meyer's 1999 record. With that performance, Xaba now holds national records in the 10-kilometer half-marathon and marathon distances. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, please do send an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. This is Channel Africa Sport with me, Fikile Lungwati.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege.
So when you think of African music, you think of Kwasa Kwasa, high life music from West Africa, Afrobeat from West Africa, of gospel music or faith music or spiritual music. But when we think of reggae music, we go to the Caribbean, and if it's Africa, we only think about Lucky Dube. Well, I'm here to introduce you to some reggae music from Africa. Salif Keita with Dakan Fair from Mali, and I must say this one was a real shock for me because I never had imagined Salif Keita on a reggae beat. But listening to him, it just proved to me how versatile he is as an artist, because you'd be expecting him to be on that vibe of West Africa, of ballads. But he really proved that he is very versatile, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Africa in Song with Chanduko Ligege. We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628.
SABC Sports brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Streaming 13th July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the heights and the headache and the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon, I'm Tabiso Lohoko. The organization Undoing Tax Abuse, ALTA, has hailed the court ruling in the conscientious car powership energy deal as a victory for South Africans. Yesterday, the High Court in Pretoria overturned all 3 electricity generation licenses that the National Energy Regulator of South Africa has awarded car powership. This was for providing an emergency power source at the cost of over $110 million over a period of 20 years. In April 2022, Ulster requested that the court review NERSA's decision to grant the licenses to the Turkish company, citing numerous legal and procedural concerns. Ulster Executive Director for Accountability, Advocate Stephanie Fick.
One of the reasons we are saying those licenses should never have been given is the fact that Car Power were unable to get environmental authorization. They were unable to get financial closure. There's a lot of boxes that they didn't tick. So I think NERSA realized if they continue, they will probably end up with another devastating cost order. And we must keep in mind that anything NERSA pays, whether it's negligent or intentional, comes out of the fiscus.
South African political party Action SA is among the political parties that applauded the country's Reserve Bank's Monetary Policy Committee for citing interest rates. This follows the bank's announcement that it has cut the interest rates by 25 basis points. This brings the country's repo rate down to 7% and the prime lending rate to 10.5%. It's the first time the repo rate is at 7% since the COVID-19 pandemic. Action SA Communication Director Matthew George.
Action SA welcomes the South African Reserve Bank's decision to cut the interest rate by 25 basis points, bringing the repo rate down to 7% and the prime lending rate to 10.5%. While this move is a step in the right direction, we believe a 50 basis point cut would have been more appropriate, especially considering that baseline inflation has remained below or at the lower end of the 3 to 6% target band. Still, any reduction in the cost of borrowing is a relief for South African business owners and working families, and we welcome it.
South Africa's central bank has moved to cut inflation target to 3 instead of 4.5%. Briefing the media yesterday after announcing an interest rate cut of 0.25%, Governor Lesetja Kganyago stated that the prospect of a lower inflation target has bolstered the rand and lowered long-term borrowing costs. He says with headline inflation currently at 3%, this is an opportune moment to reduce the inflation target.
We wanted to highlight the opportunity to achieve permanently lower inflation at minimal cost. For this meeting, we updated the 3% forecast. All that we are doing today is to do exactly what we did in 2017 and to say we prefer that we lock the gains there, and within this inflation target range of 3 to 6, we shall aim for the bottom of the range, which happens to be 3%.
Mozambique's central bank cut its benchmark interest rate by 75 basis points to 10.25%, saying it expects inflation to remain in single digits over the medium term. The Bank of Mozambique has now lowered the MIMO lending rate for 10 policy meetings in a row in an easing cycle stretching back to 2024. In its latest statement, it highlighted debt pressures but said its inflation outlook was helped by a favorable international commodity prices. Sales of new Tesla cars in Sweden, Denmark and France fell in July for the 7th straight month as the EV maker struggles with a backlash to CEO Elon Musk's political views, regulatory challenges and competition from European and Chinese brands. Tesla's Asian lineup is facing a wave of low-cost EV rivals, especially from China. It is rolling out a revamped Model Y and is starting to produce a new cheaper model, but production of that will only ramp up next quarter, later than initially expected. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 530. In Botswana, it's at 13.35. Kenya, 128 shilling 52, and Zambia, 22 kwacha 91. The BRICS countries in Brazil, the dollar there will cost you a 5 ruble 59. In Russia, it's at 80 rubles 69. India, 87 rupees 57. China, 71.19. And in South Africa, the dollar will cost you 18 rand 9 cents. 76 pence, British pound, 87 euro. Commodities markets, gold $3,291, platinum $1,284 per ounce. Brand crude oil is at $71.56 a barrel. For any business stories you would like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +2711 714 4459. Channel Africa Business.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective.
zochitika ndi madaphiri kamlondola wazochitika pena paliponse.
nduna wa zamalonda ku Malawi aletsa kampani yopanga shuga ya Irovo yomwe ndi nthambi ya Irovo Sugar Group Limited kuti isiye kutumiza shuga ku maiko akunja. Malingana ndi nduna ya zamalonda Vitumbuko Mumba, izi zithandiza kuti shuga yemwe yakusowa pa msika azipezeka. Ndiye pano ndili ndi George Muhangu amene ali mu mzinda wa Blantyre mu dziko la Malawi. Chimene chikupangitsa kuti shuga azisowa ndi chani?
Chomwe chikupangitsa kuti shuga azisowa ndichonena kuti panopo ili ngati off season ya makampani a Irovo Sugar Malawi, kunena kuti sakutha kupanga shugayi okwanira chifukwa akukolola. Ndiye akamaliza kukolola pameneno atayambeno sopano kugaya shugayi kuti azipezeka. Chinanso ndichonena kuti ma distributors amene akumakagula shuga kaya ndi ku Irovo kaya ndi kusalima shuga akumagulisa ku maiko akunja ngati Zambia, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Mozambique.
zochitika ndi madaphiri lolemba mpaka lachisanu pa nthawi ya 7 koloko kufikira 8 koloko madzulo pa Channel Africa.
Your window to the continent and beyond. Africa Update. Only on Channel Africa. Channel Africa. The African perspective.
Indeed, African perspective, your window to the continent. On to this now. Namibia has been hit hard by a climate-induced drought, leaving thousands in urgent need of food and basic services. Now, with support from the UN Central Emergency Response Fund, the World Food Programme, WFP, working alongside the Namibian government, UNICEF and UNFPA, provided emergency assistance to over 63,000 people across several regions. My colleague Asanda Beda earlier spoke to Gloria Kamwi, head of programs at WFP Namibia.
Can you briefly describe the drought situation in that triggered the WFP's emergency response in Namibia?
You would recall somewhere late 2024, just like many years in and out, Namibia faced a national humanitarian crisis that is commonly known as the El Nino-induced drought. basically due to poor rainfall that is below average and normal, which then severely disrupts agriculture production, leaving a lot of families with no harvest to rely on for their household feeding. Now, that lack of harvest is what now led to the widespread food insecurities, especially in the rural and vulnerable communities. If you have seen the data as well, the acute food insecurity analysis around that time then recollected that about 1.4 million people, which is nearly 48% of the Namibian population, were then faced with a crisis of food insecurity. In response to this, His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Namibia, then declared a state of emergency on 22 May 2024 exactly. What does that mean? It then means that the President called upon different partners, humanitarian and development, to support the national response in providing the much-needed food-affected households countrywide. It is from this call that WFP responded to the call of duty, responding to the government of Namibia in supporting various communities that were severely affected in various communities with food support. So basically, with these funds, the United Nations, with the two agencies that you have mentioned, UNICEF and UNFPA, WFP joined hands to provide the humanitarian support in various categories in Kavango East, Kavango West, and Omaheke regions of Namibia.
So what kind of food and nutrition support did the WFP provide?
A few years back, WFP has been supporting the government with food assistance through humanitarian response whenever a drought has been declared. 2021, WFP, through the Office of the Prime Minister, piloted various food assistance modalities. We call them transfer modalities. In this case, a food commodity voucher. Now, what does a food commodity voucher does? It establishes a food basket with nutritious food items within it. These then are procured at local retailer level. The households are then given a voucher that is loaded with that value for them to redeem at a level that they are living within their communities. So within that basket, you have what we call maize meal here. You've got pilchards, which is fish. You've got cooking oil. You've got salt, and you've got soft porridges that are provided because of catering for the needs of children that are below the age of 5. Complementary to that, WFP provided wet feeding, which was a supplementary top-up to be preparing fresh meals in communities, supported by community groups, to which children that are from the age of 6 months to 9 years were served at various points in these communities.
Are there any challenges that were faced during the response, and how were these overcome?
Well, with every response, whether development or humanitarian, the challenges are there because, first of all, hence we have risk analysis before you even dive into an implementation. But I think the biggest one I would like to highlight is how the need sometimes can be underestimated. At planning, you get on the ground and you realize that it is really more than what you thought, especially for the supplementary wet feeding that was being prepared as fresh food in the different communities. The assumption was to include only children that are of feeding age, which is 6 months to 9 years. But you get there and you realize there's a 10-year-old right after the threshold who's also from a vulnerable community that would like to participate in this meal because they need to. And do you turn away such a child? So at a point, we had to do some adjustment to the criteria, what we call a crisis modifier.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802.
All right, just a reminder on today's Africa Update Ask. Today, South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa sworn into office the acting Minister of Police, Professor Firoz Kachalia, at the Union Buildings. Now, we are asking you, what do you think the priorities of the incoming acting minister should be in the portfolio of police? Share your thoughts on Channel Africa's social media platforms at Channel Africa 1 on X and Instagram, and of course, at Channel Africa on Facebook, or you can send us your comments and voice notes on our WhatsApp number. It's +2706, or should I say +27 63406 9126.
Africa in Business on Channel Africa.
The United States was very vocal at the beginning of South Africa's G20 presidency, and this is largely due to strained relations with South Africa at the time, that they were not really keen on participating. Where do they stand right now?
The US is planning to take over the presidency of the G20 next year, and our understanding from them is that they intend to continue to do so, and therefore it is quite difficult then to be in a situation where you are not attending deputies' meetings or discussions during our presidency and then to take over the presidency next year. From a finance track perspective, there has been engagement. We've been working on a communique last week and this week here in Zimbabwe. What's important about that is that it's a consensus document, and so all the members in the room have to agree to the language that is used there, and our US colleagues have been part of those discussions and negotiations.
Bringing the African markets into your home. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Right, on to this now. South Africa's Deputy President Paul Mashatile has denied any improper about the two properties in Cape Town and Midrand with a combined value of 63 million rand. Now, this he declared in Parliament's members' interested register. Mashatile was speaking at Kwashimba near Kato Ridge, west of Durban, where he officially opened the Inkosi Simiengaye shopping centre. Fanele Mhlongo reports.
Deputy President Paul Mashatile has faced pressure about his declaration of a multi-million rand property in the latest members' interest declarations. The three properties Mashatile declared includes a 28.9 million rand home in Constantia, as well as a 34 million rand property at Waterval, Midrand. Mashatile says the Constantia home belongs to his son-in-law and that he only lives there.
People must read. That's just first thing you must learn in life. There's nothing in Parliament that I said I own a house. I said I live there. That house is owned by my son-in-law. It's a very simple thing to read. So what's the problem? I don't use government money. There's no government money in those houses. So what are you looking for? It's not government money. So I don't know what are your problems. It's a private home. It's owned by the family. It's not government. So how does government come in?
Mashatile was speaking at Kwaklemba, where he officially opened a shopping center. Residents welcomed the opening of Inkosi Simiengaye shopping center in their area. The new center was the brainchild of 5 traditional leaders from Kwaklemba and nearby areas who came together 10 years ago to source investments for their struggling communities. The rural community is located halfway between Durban and Pietermaritzburg without any large shopping centers nearby. Residents who have already started shopping at the center say they are going to save a lot of money on transport. Some residents, such as Tembisonene, hope the center will also address the issue of unemployment.
We have so much hope that we will get more job opportunities and people will have to come and show their skills. Maybe they can open up some small gazebos. As we can see, some they have started today. We're having a hope that even those shops that are not yet been opened, but they could open, and people who are living as such around can also get some jobs here. Because we're really struggling. As the youth, we can see that the number is getting high of unemployment.
Inkosi Simiengaye Mlaba says locals have benefited through employment opportunities.
It has always been my wish to have a shopping centre closer to the people at Kwaklimba. I didn't want elderly people to travel long distances to receive their grants. I wanted them to save the money that they spend on transport. This centre has benefited young people with employment opportunities. We now want offices such as SASA to come closer to the people.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Now, the Executive Director for the Public Affairs Research Institute at South Africa's University of Pretoria, Dr. Stembile Mbete, has called for greater self-reflection among liberation movements in Southern Africa. Speaking at the symposium on rethinking democracy in Southern Africa, lessons from the 2024 electoral cycle, she warned against the long-held belief that liberation movements poses a God-given right to power, emphasizing that political legitimacy must be earned through delivering, of course, for the people and listening to their concerns. Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe attended the symposium and filed this report.
The purpose of the symposium was to reflect on the outcomes and processes of the 2024 electoral cycle in Southern Africa, to analyze electoral trends and governance shifts, and to engage students, academics, electoral observers, and researchers in discussions on how to strengthen democracy and democratic participation in the region moving forward. A week ago, Southern African liberation movements led by South Africa's African National Congress Party held a summit in Johannesburg to reflect and reshape their future, which is under threat. Commenting on the summit, Dr. Stembile Mbete says,
"What struck me from the Liberation Movement Summit was how little self-reflection there was on what the role has actually been of those parties and their leaders in the outcome that they were lamenting and speaking about. And so there was a lot of blame placed on external actors, on all sorts of outside forces, but no real internal reflection about what is it about the way that we've governed, about the way that we've treated our people, that is leading us to the situation that we are in."
Her remarks comes amid shifting electoral landscapes and declining dominance of traditional liberation parties across the region. She says liberation movements are not here to rule for eternity.
And so the idea that there is a right to power and to support of your public that is a God-given right and not one that is earned through delivering to your public, through listening to your people, through building constituencies, through communicating to the people that you want to vote for you. Just that idea that, you know, the liberation movement somehow have this God-given right to hold on to power for the rest of eternity, I think is something that's being challenged in real terms, in real time, through the election results that we're seeing, through the decline of their power. And the sooner the very old leaders who are at that conference start to grapple with that, the better.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet. Channel 628. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Well, that was the conversation with our reporter Michael Mbewe. Of course, they were looking at issues around rethinking democracy in Southern Africa, the lessons from the 2024 electoral cycle. All right, up next, the man of the moment has just walked in, the Upside. Debza, good afternoon to you, man.
Right, fantastic to see you again. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. What can we expect?
It's going to be an exciting show. Every Friday, we highlight superstars on the show, and it's no different today. In the first hour, we get into conversation with an influencer by the name of Amahle Jax Jatla. She's a social media content creator. She keeps us in the loop with current affairs, but making it understandable, relatable. Because we know how sometimes news can be very a high level. It requires you to have a dictionary. She breaks it down and helps us unpack what's happening in the world around us. Then we've got DJ and dancer TDK Makaset joining us this afternoon to give us our DJ mix for the show. And then King Monada, award-winning musician. He's got a new song. It's out today. It's called Depression. I don't know why it's called Depression, but we'll ask him why it's called Depression. That's all coming up on the Upside this afternoon.
I can't wait for that conversation with King Monada. Thank you so much, man. Looking forward to the show. Well, that's my lot on this installment of Africa Update. And of course, from myself, Innocent Semosa, the producer Tumelo Zulu, and the rest of the team, thank you for listening. As Channel Africa would like to engage with us, of course, on our social media platforms. You can send us your comments and questions on info@channelafrica.org or by SMS to +27 82 332 5905. You can also follow us on Twitter @ChannelAfrica1, as well as our fan page on Facebook, Channel Africa. From myself, Innocent Semosa, and the rest of the team behind the scenes, it's goodbye and God bless.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Good afternoon.